when did you start music?
Well, there are lots of pictures of me as like a toddler sitting at the piano, and there's a favorite picture of me with a guitar, and I have one shoe on, one shoe off, and ponytails, and this really bratty look on my face. But I'm thinking, okay, that kind of sums it up. But my mom was a single parent, and we lived in a trailer house, and she demanded that we had a piano. And so when I was about 8, it was the year that my father passed away, and she decided to take some of the money that we got from some things, and she went out and she bought a piano. And that was a huge investment for somebody in that situation. And so part of the piano, we bought it from a piano teacher because she upgraded. And so part of the deal was you got 8 free piano lessons along with buying the piano. And so I began piano lessons with her, and so did my brother, who's 10 years older than me. And so we continued our piano lessons, and it was always I wouldn't say I was fantastic, but it was really fun, and we had a good time, and it was something my brother and I did together. And then over the years, I just kept playing piano, and when it came time to join an instrument in band, my brother really tried hard to get me to play the clarinet, and I was just like, I didn't like the sound of it. It was one of those instruments that it didn't appeal to my ear. The flute was okay, and other instruments were okay. So anyway, I started on flute. And we had the brattiest flute section in the world in Fremont, Nebraska. And so, sorry. And we were very competitive and just kind of mean. And, well, I know, stereotypical. But I told my teacher I'd really like to try a different instrument. I said, I'll play the clarinet. And she said, do you really want to do something different? Why don't you play the oboe? And she was actually an oboist herself, and she said, I'll bring one for you next week. And I said, okay. And I was kind of, a little bit bratty and kind of crazy, and so she brought me an oboe, and I remember I was so excited. I ran and I jumped, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I do that now as this point. But anyway, she started me on oboe. And in Fremont, Nebraska, you had private lessons as part of your school day. And so I had 5 years of private oboe lessons with an oboist for free.
Wow.
And it was just, she was fantastic. And we were very close over the years. And by, in junior high in Fremont, if you start in elementary school, you're playing some difficult literature by the time you're in 9th grade. And so it was just a blast. And we had so much fun. And I was in a woodwind quintet, and I still played piano. And so then my mom met a husband and moved to Colorado. And so kind of took me out of that world. And so we went to Thornton, is where our house was, but the attendance area was Adams City High School, which is in Commerce City. And I'm proud to say it's all good at this point now. But it was frightening going from Fremont, Nebraska to, Adams City High School.
Sure.
But the band teacher at the time was a UNC grad, and just a fantastic person, and had a great marching band and a great jazz band. He was a trombone player, Nick Keelan. And it was a great family that I kind of just fell into. I don't know if I'd gone to another high school if I'd been that lucky, I was just, it was really awesome. And so he kind of took it from there, and I developed other skills. I learned I played piccolo in marching band, so I got to play the flute again. And then, my friend Roxanne, she twisted my arm to join Blue Knights Drum and Bugle Corps. And so that was a whole different thing. I played mallets and, learned saxophone for jazz band, all that stuff that kids do. And it was wonderful. And so I had a really rich music education, and it started off with my mom, who wanted a piano.
And so then did all of those teachers that influenced you, did that help you decide to become a teacher?
A little bit. Mostly, I was joking about this at my retirement party. My friend Roxanne, we were pretty tight, and she was a clarinet player and a bass player, and she knew that she wanted to be a music teacher. That was what she wanted to do. So she was a year older than me. So she came up to UNC, and I was still back at Adams City High School, and so she said my senior year, "What are you going to do, Kathy?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Come up to Greeley and be a music major." And I'm like, okay. So that really is how it happened. I'm not even joking. And so then I was so fortunate when I got up to UNC, the oboe professor, Kenny Evans, Dr. Evans, Reeds Evans,
Yeah.
he kind of whisked me up where the others had left off. And I've just been super lucky to have all those people come into my life at the right times. And so he took me under his wing, and, I got to play. And I got to say, I wasn't that great because I, had only had lessons in junior high. And so I had to catch up, but he was very patient. He's one of the old school people that really hammered home fundamentals and all the time knowing he was grooming me to teach. I didn't know that, but he knew it. And so, every time he fixed an instrument or every time he, had some sort of fundamental to teach, he'd refer it back to, now when you teach, this is how you're going to do this. And always a lot of finger wagging and colloquialisms, there's the word. Just never, never, never pass. He'd write on the top of tunes and picky, 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 and all these just funny little things that just are in my mind forever now and that I've said for my 30 years of teaching. And then I was so fortunate to have him, and he taught me everything I still use today. And then when it came time to teach, I student taught, met my husband, student teaching, and then when it came time to actually teach, we were looking for jobs, and we, did what everybody else does. You look and see, okay, there's a job open in Las Cruces, New Mexico. That's a long ways from home. And one in Brush, Colorado, and one in Bird City, Kansas.
Oh, I've been there.
Have you?
I have. There's a gas station.
Can you imagine teaching band there?
At the gas station?
Yeah.
To who?
Do they have enough chairs?
There's a lot of tweeting going on. So I didn't take any of those jobs, but there was a half-time job in Greeley that was only 2 classes, and then there was another half of that job that was some orchestra. And so my husband took the orchestra. He wasn't my husband yet, but he took the orchestra part, and I took the band part, and we both taught half-time, 50% here in Greeley for the first year and a half, and eventually things shifted, and we became, who we are today.
What school was that?
I was always at Brentwood.
Always at
Oh, wow.
Brentwood.
31 years at Brentwood Middle School.
So what year did you start at Brentwood?
1990.
1990.
Were you a middle school student then?
I was absolutely a Bengal, but not then, no.
Oh, okay. Later?
No.
Oh, okay.
Years before that.
Okay, all right. Cool. The band teacher who was there teaching full-time, I was his overload, was Gary Wiley. And Gary was an institution and still is in Greeley. Everybody knew Mr. Wiley, and, he pretty much taught half the town. And he was just so revered and respected, and he just taught me everything I know. And I still used everything that he used even up to the very last day.
Wow.
About a month ago, or a month and a half ago. It was about a month ago. Anyway, and so Gary and I are still really good friends, and he was something.
Yeah.
So I would say, those people along the way are the ones who really influenced me
Yeah.
as well.
That's awesome. And they set your path influencing other people.
I hope. I tried. I try still.
So what are some of your most favorite memories?
Well, the kids, being in middle school all those years, you have so many stories, lots and lots of middle school type stories.
Right?
That, yeah. But I would say, some of those funny times are some of the best because they make you laugh. Coming in, we came over here to the coffee place and played small ensemble concerts many times, thanks to Mr. Jameson, who was also a professor of mine at UNC, and who donated his time to Brentwood, oh my gosh, for many years. And wow, we calculated it out. I think it was about 10 years he came over to Brentwood, most weeks, every day,
Wow.
donating his time, but also his instruments and his music that he arranged and working with kids. It was just...
And the 80 years of practicing clarinet that he's got under his belt.
Right. And being a model for the kids and sitting in with them and playing along, always just really fun. Those were fun times. So I would say, little gigs that we did going out into the community and, the Weld County veterans.
What about the Nuggets?
Yeah, that was fun too.
Right?
Yeah. That was an accident. That happened totally by accident. They were the Rapids, actually, the Colorado Rapids called our principal and said, we need a choir to sing the national anthem for such and such a game. And we had an ex-teacher, Lori Ford, whose son was just recently at that time signed with the Nuggets, with the Rapids, sorry, as a soccer player. And he was a Greeley graduate from Greeley Central. Anyway, so my principal looked at me and she said, what do you think? And I said, let's do it as with the band. I said, because the gig was right before school started. Mm-hmm. So you had to actually get the kids ready in the summer, and that's always very difficult. So anyway, that was so much fun. And we rehearsed the kids and went to this Rapids game, and they did this little shout out to Lori, our staff member, and it was just really terrific. There's fireworks went off, and it was just very cool. And then the organizer of that event moved over to the Nuggets, and then she remembered us and said, you guys did such a good job. Why don't you come do a Nuggets game? And I was like, that's a little scarier. Yeah. But it was terrifying. It really was. But it was cool because it was a professional experience for these kids. I mean, they got the real deal. Yeah. And it was something. I mean, their eyes were like so huge looking around, knowing that, everybody was listening to you play your instrument. Yeah. So that was always very fun. We did that twice. So
wow.
Yeah. The hard thing was that the Nuggets required us to have the students purchase a ticket.
Oh boy.
And
that's hard to do.
Right. And when you have a band of, almost 100 kids and, many of those are not able to pay for the ticket. So we were lucky to have many donations that last year. And so that was fun. But Christmas time's always fun. We went out to the elementary schools and did, great big concerts. And had some kid dress up as Santa and, go crazy. And then a contest was fun when we went down to Denver and played, and then we'd go to Casa Bonita. That was a tradition till the last year when Alex was with us, Alex Villanova, an ex-Music Depot employee. She was with me, and a kid broke his leg at Casa Bonita. Oh, and no. I looked at Alex. I remember staring her in the eyes, and I said, we are never doing this again. And then we did. So
so things like the Nuggets, those chance, an accident, were there any other big events that stick out, and were they also accidents, or did you have to work the kids up to getting to those kinds of things?
It always seemed that the best opportunities came from just these chance things. I always told the students, I said, you have to be ready to play anytime anybody asks you. Mm-hmm. And I said, and so in order to be that good, you have to have practiced, and you have to have your instrument in shape, and you have to have, it going on. And one year, the Weld County veterans asked UNC to play for their Armed Forces Day, which happens the last the third week of May every year, and which is kind of a really awkward time because UNC is actually out of school by then. And, it's all of ours last week of school in District 6. So anyway, they asked UNC, and they said, no, we don't even have students. Then they asked Greeley Central, and Jeff Davis there said, why don't you ask Kathy Azari over at Brentwood? And so I was like, okay. So we ended up playing that opportunity, and that was in 2008. And we did it every single year until the pandemic.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And it included students having to play taps,
Yeah.
So the first couple of years it was, it was kind of the basic taps, but then it became an echo taps. And so it was a rite of passage that the trumpet players, and do I get to play taps this year?
Yeah.
And so anyway, that gig just kind of fell. And that's probably one of the most treasured ones that we ever got to do. So and there was another funny one. It was for the CASB, the Colorado Association of School Boards. So my husband got this email from our superintendent, and I saw it over his shoulder with his phone, and I said, what's that? He said, oh, they want us to play at the Broadmoor, and I don't think that will work. I said, are you kidding? Give me your phone. And I pushed reply, and I said, this is Kathy Azari. We'd be happy to get a group ready.
Is that for CMEA?
Well, no, it was for the CASB, but it was at the Broadmoor. Yeah. So you play in the same venue. It's just a different audience.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And we got a symphony orchestra together for that. So that was a kind of a joint project working with my husband, which was awesome. It really was. We both have similar visions for what things should be. We have both strong personalities, so there are moments where, it gets a little tense, but, it's only to make it better.
So how do you keep that many middle schoolers engaged and motivated to be as good of a band as they are?
I really think that success breeds success. And I've heard that was some logo for maybe it was even District 6 a long time ago, but it's true. It really does. Once you get a successful thing going, even if it's the most basic successful thing, you have, I don't know what it is, students playing hot cross buns and sounding okay, then, you pump them up and you show it off, and you have to advocate for them. You're not just a band director, you're a producer.
Yeah. And
you have to produce the show of your students. And so, because if you don't, nobody's going to hear them. And then it doesn't start a tradition rolling. So, and then once they have this tradition, and it really doesn't take even that long. And I'd say 4 years, 5 years. My husband says 5 years, but, you get that tradition rolling, and then it just sort of feeds itself because it's something people want to be part of. And, there's always a little bit of competition that's kind of built into stuff a little bit. And, middle school is the perfect time for that. Just they're kind of focused on achieving still, and that's nice. So I would say that's how.
I can't imagine wrangling 100 kids to get them ready to perform at the Nuggets. I mean, I couldn't hardly get my kids out of the house, let alone anywhere with an instrument and accessories and a shirt.
Right. You have to become a master storyteller as a band director. I'm sure you guys have experienced all the storytelling from all the band directors in Greeley and other places. But you just have to be able to sell your story to the kids. And once they kind of buy, okay, this is what this is about, then show them pictures, show them videos, show them other groups that have played, and then they start to get a vision, and with that vision, they start to do stuff. So
now I'd like to ask a little bit about planning. When you're a middle school band teacher, first of all, how do you capture kids coming into 6th grade? And also, how do you figure out what instrument are they going to play? And how do you make all of that organized and work?
That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
That is truly, it used to not be.
Mm-hmm.
Society's changing, and, people's experiences are changing. People who had band as a kid, it's very different now in some ways. So it looks different. Back 30 years ago, we'd contact the students in the spring and say, congratulations, you'll be playing the oboe, no, or tuba, and they get this letter and they'd be like, okay, cool, I'll go to the music store, I'll go buy the book, I'll go get all my supplies. That is not reality now for many places. I know that, like in other surrounding districts of northern Colorado, things are different, and they have their instrument trial nights and they have, all sorts of things. But in District 6, it was pretty much, you had to, jostle it around a little bit. So, because if a kid didn't have an instrument, you had to put them on an instrument that you had.
Yeah.
That Music Depot repaired.
Well, until you run out of those, and then they have to play the ones that we haven't been able to fix yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, a lot of, I would say at Brentwood at least, there were a number of kids that still kind of supplied their own instruments. Unfortunately, sometimes it was online, not so wonderful instruments. But, thankfully Music Depot repaired those. So it's a juggling act. I tried to, I told the good and the bad, the ugly of every instrument, at least in my opinion, at the beginning of the school year. And I'd kind of do this at the same time that I'm giving them how this class is going to work spiel. And this is not a class where you jump around and you go crazy. This is a class where you're going to learn how to play an instrument. So I use that time to educate them about instruments. And then about 3 weeks in, I said, okay, let's really nail down what it is you're going to play. And honestly, that usually worked out with payday.
Yeah.
And so that was not an accident on my part.
Yeah.
But, and maybe it's not that way for everyone, but that's the way I approached it. And it worked for some time.
Well, and then you had to pick music that's going to keep the kids engaged.
That's tough too.
Yeah. I can't imagine trying to put that together.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to, because you can't, some people said, I've selected my music for next year already. I'm like, oh that's never going to happen to me.
Right.
Because you don't even know who's in your room the next year, and you don't know, who came back, who moved away. That's a serious problem in District 6. So, but anyway, I would listen to lots and lots of tunes over the summer, and on the online, and kind of make some ideas go, and remember which tunes I used. I made a spreadsheet of 31 years of concert programs. Wow. I just came across that recently because I gave it to my next successor, and I played Rock Around the Clock, Hawaii Five-0.
Wow.
A couple others, just way, 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 way too many times.
Yeah.
I feel guilty. But they worked. You know that tune that you can go to. For my husband, it was the Pink Panther.
Oh, very nice. Classic.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and of course, no matter what piece of music you get, somebody's got the boring part. I know I try not to tell the kids that there's a boring, but there's always a boring part. I played the tenor, so like...
Oh.
And so do you ever like specifically pick like one piece where you're like, oh, the tubas have a cool part?
Always. Always. Yes. I always tried to favor the low brass, low wind section, at least try to give them something.
Yeah.
At some point. There's some really great tunes out there for all that, and I wish somebody would come and pick my brain and say, okay, here, these are the tunes I need. What you got? And I'm like, in the Brentwood Music Library, there are, it's so exciting. And that's the fun part about middle school is that once you get the right, and I have missed many times, I've picked the wrong tune, and you pay for it dearly. They fight you on it every step of the way. I don't like this. This is boring. This is stupid. I get it. I know. And songs like, Silent Night and, the national anthem, I say, I don't care what you think of this. You are playing this because this is important. Or whatever. I don't know. Maybe not Silent Night, but, kind of standards that people look forward to hearing.
So let's talk about your extracurricular activities.
Yes.
Okay. So, shall we talk about Colfax? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's where Casa Bonita is. Right. And they are opening again, so I heard.
Yes. Listen, I need to have
sounded really bad.
50-year-old tortilla chips and
sopapillas.
Sopapillas. And also 12 variations on the enchilada. They're all enchiladas.
Yeah.
But
they
may as well.
Cliff divers.
Yes. Cliff divers.
I mean,
yeah. Or
just don't break your leg.
That's Jen's territory. Okay. Well, how about instead what's Music Garden? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well,
it's spelled funny.
Yeah, it's got a K in there, Music Garden. And so here in Greeley, we have a Union Colony Children's Music Academy, and it's been around for 30 years as well. So I've taught there for 21 years, I think. Maybe 22. Anyway, it's early childhood music and movement, and I've done those classes after school most days.
Really?
Monday through Thursday, and then sometimes on Saturdays. And usually I get home about 7 at night, or I used to. Because after teaching band, I'd go and do that. And we have group piano, and we have ukulele, but we also have, baby classes and toddlers and all sorts of pre-piano classes, some early reading, early musical literacy. So I actually went through the training, the Music Garden training. Music Garden is the curriculum we use. It's the set of songs and the lessons, more or less. We kind of punch in our own favorite movements and, different things. But and they're offered at First Congregational Church right here in town, 2101 16th Street. And, it's just that's been a real soul-feeding part of my life. It's, I think that's the only way I could really do middle school for 31 years is have something else as well. So,
well, did that at all change the way that you taught middle school?
Oh, yeah, very much so. It's a very holistic, whole child sort of approach instead of just being a band teacher and putting on a metronome and saying, play it, kids, But, you really tried to approach it from a more experiential standpoint of, I wonder what it would sound like if you tried that, or, a lot of creativity that goes into it. And, really helped me kind of get on a different level instead of me being the dictator of the lofty, instead having us be a team working together, making music, which is really awesome, I think. And I had to call on all those Music Garden experiences this last year. I was so grateful I had them. Is this where I talk about my favorite student, Oscar Olivas?
Absolutely.
I have been lucky over the years to always have amazing tuba players. Even though I'm an oboe player, I don't know how it happened. Every year, I don't think there was even one or two out of 31 that I didn't have a great, not just a good, great tuba players. And wow. And Oscar Olivas was one of those great tuba players. And I am pretty sure he didn't really want to play the tuba, but he was kind of a big guy. And he came in, and I said, what do you want to play? He goes, I don't know. I said, good, you're on tuba. But he plays amazing sax now. So really, really fantastic saxophone. He also played viola in my husband's orchestra. Did you know that?
Wow.
There you go. Yeah, he was a very good violist, really very good. Yes. And, reading alto clef is it's kind of tricky, and especially if you're already reading other clefs, you know.
Yeah.
And Oscar, no problem. And in fact, one year, we've had to, be around these kids in different situations. And so Oscar I can't remember where, maybe it was at school, and he was on my computer, and he said, listen to this. And it was the Hindemith Viola Sonata. I'm like, wow, where'd you find that? He goes, what do you think? It's really cool. And he was listening to it and listening. I was like, okay, it's pretty awesome. Yes, you're right. It's very cool, Oscar. And so anyway, yeah, he made it into the CU Honor Band on tuba, and he played trombone for me a little bit, and he was fantastic. Really good.
So what makes a fantastic tuba player?
Oh, man. Well, they can read music.
Yeah.
That's really important, and that's got to happen in there, that they have a sense of rhythm.
Yeah.
And they have a sense of pitch, because you have to be able to manipulate all those really low notes and then, have some sort of range and be able to play higher notes. And you're the foundation of that band. And there are a couple years I had 3 at a time. And I remember I went to contests with that particular group, and they said, a little bit too much low end. And I'm like, shut your mouth. There's never too much low. Stop it.
Right. Well, because tubas, people talk how things like piccolos and oboes will like cut through.
Right.
But the tubas being rung makes you uncomfortable, like almost in a, like if you don't know about music, it makes you uncomfortable in a, like a way you can't really place.
Right.
Like it like seeps in. Just like jostles you.
It sure does. Yeah.
So,
it's like having your house start to like crumble. It was, and I have carried those tubas so many times for students just so that they'd have it at the gig and they wouldn't have to like take it home or, and one time I was transporting a tuba from Brentwood to somewhere, and it was in the back of our minivan, and this is one of the older minivans, and the back wasn't latched, and so I was driving on 23rd Avenue, and right at the cross of Reservoir Road, the back opened up and the tuba just fell out into the middle of the intersection. It was in its case, but I saw it in the rearview mirror, and being the band director instead of driver than I am, I pulled the car over and I like slammed on the brakes, and I didn't even look to see if there was like any traffic around or anything. My only thing was save that tuba because it was a good one. And so I ran over to the middle of the intersection and I like grabbed the tuba, and then I thought, oh, what if there was, and so then I'd walk to the crosswalk and push the walk button so I could be correct and like go, okay. But that was pretty funny. I was like, dang, that tuba dropped out of the back.
Was it okay?
It was great. Yeah. Those cases, kids will put their feet on cases or sit on cases, and I'm like, don't do that. Don't. That case is just as valuable as that instrument. It really is. There's another good case story. I used to have I had little luggage tags for students for their instrument case, and I'd put Brentwood's address on one side and the kid's name on the other. And so it was one of the Christmas trips, and I was following the bus, or maybe they were behind me or something anyway, and I saw the kids going crazy in the bus, and I was like, oh no, what is going on? And they were like standing up and waving their arms, and I thought, this is not good. And so finally the bus driver pulled over, and I said, what happened? What's going on? And she said, oh, one of the trumpets fell off the undercarriage of the bus, and the kids were trying to get my attention to tell me where it was, but I don't know where it is. And so I'm like, oh man. I thought, so I started to try to retrace the steps, and then I realized it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, Pedro, I remember it's Pedro Lopez's trumpet. It was a school trumpet, but it still had his name on it. And I was like, okay, this trumpet's got to be somewhere. And all of a sudden, the office called me from Brentwood. They said, yeah, we got your trumpet here. And I'm like, how do you have it? And they said, oh, a nice man saw it in the middle of the street, and they saw Brentwood Middle School on it. They brought it back to us.
Thank you for that good Samaritan.
And so I told that story every year to tell the kids that it's important to have their instrument luggage tag on.
Yes.
But I've got my Music Depot luggage tag, and I said, well, this one says Brentwood on it, so.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, because if they don't have like their information on it,
right.
it'll come back to us, and we're like, that's a Music Depot tag. I guess we'll just hold it here until somebody tells us it's missing.
Right, exactly. Who's Pedro? I don't know.
Right, so they should have your luggage tags and then our stickers. Mm-hmm. And then it'll end up somewhere it needs to be.
I always told them to keep both on.
Yeah.
I said, you can never have too many names on your instrument. And so then I'd go up to high school and I'd see, some of these old Brentwood kids, and they'd have like 5 tags on their trumpet, right. 1 from every year. And I'm like, okay. I guess.
There's like 4 schools on there.
Right. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, we definitely get some repairs in, and I'll look at them at first. I'm like, oh, it's a middle school instrument. It's got Kathy's tag on it. And then it turns out it's like a 12th grader. And I'm like, oh.
Why didn't you take that off? Are you that, connected to your middle school?
Yes.
Oh, that makes my heart happy. Anyway.
So tell me, what is the funniest memory you have?
This is kind of a famous story in the band land. There was a kid, I was rehearsing class one day, and this kid raised his hand and said, Miss, he has a rat in his shirt. And I'm like, what? And he said, look, and very deadpan, very calm. And he pointed over to this kid in the percussion section. And I looked at the kid, and he's just staring at me. And I said, do you have a rat in your shirt? He goes, yes. And I said, okay, well, I guess let's see it. And so he stuck his hand down his shirt and kind of like jostled around and pulled out a rat.
Oh, like a real one?
Like a real, live rat. And its tail was wiggling. And, the kids are all sitting there going, ah! And I said, sorry about that. I said, okay, well, we can't have that at school, He goes, okay. So he walks over to his backpack, which is on the ground. He unzips it kind of violently and shoves the rat in and zips it again. I said, no, that's not going to work either. Right? So anyway, I called the office. They got a cage for the rat. And then hand raised again. I said, now what? The class is like lost by now. And I said, now what? And the kid says, Bobby has one in the choir room next door too. And sure enough, Bobby did. So
I have to know.
Yeah.
Were these kids related?
Yes.
Okay. Did they?
I don't know.
Were they pet rats?
I think they were pets, yeah.
Okay. Did they just find them?
Yes. That story has been around for is very, very true.
Wow.
Not a lie. And just bizarre things like that. But
yeah.
Also, of course it was percussion.
I know.
They're either leaving weird pieces of clothing around or it's something just like too out there for you to even like.
Right.
You can't be like super mad at it because you're like.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, there's another. Speaking of, this is a trombone percussion one. So one time a kid came into band from Kansas, and he didn't like his other elective option. So his friend said, come on, join band. And the kid said, I played trombone back in Kansas. And so.
Bird City?
No, I think this was Goodland, actually.
Oh, okay.
So, no, that's funny. So the kid comes in the room. He goes, here's my friend. He wants to join band. It's like in 7th or 8th grade. And I said, well, it's kind of late, And he goes, I play trombone. And I said, oh, okay. So what position is B flat in? And he goes, 1st or 6th. I said, okay, well, you are a trombone player then. Okay. So he joined band, and he was actually not too bad. And so I had to help him with the positions and write them in sometimes. But anyway, so he sat next to the percussion area a little bit. And one day I had to put the gong out and I have a really good, Brentwood has a really good gong. And we bought it for a particular piece, and it's a quality gong. Anyway, so this gong is sitting there within arm's reach of Patrick, the new trombone player, who doesn't know me very well. And it was just the temptation was too much. So one day out of nowhere, we were all just like looking around and, you know, kind of packing up. Oh, it was winter because we were practicing Winter Wonderland. I remember he took that gong mallet and he smacked that gong as loud as hard as he could. And he did not realize what a quality gong, how loud it can be. And when it's coming out of nowhere and nobody is expecting it, it was like a hit the deck moment. Everybody just freaked. And once we like figured out what happened, I looked at him and he was like on the floor. His face was bright red. And I said, "That's it. You're coming with me." And so I walked him down to the office. I said, "What made you think that was okay?" And he goes, "I just wanted to see how it sounded."
Well, now he knows.
Yes. Yeah, the rest of the class, that became a famous moment. Patrick and the gong. It's Patrick, of course. Right.
So tell me about your husband.
Yeah.
So you started out teaching together?
Well, we went to UNC. He sat in front of me in orchestra. He was a violist. I was the oboe player, and I'd always had seen him. And
did you pull his hair?
No, I should have.
Was it longer then?
No.
Did he have hair?
He looked almost exactly the same, except he was no beard, no mustache, very uptight. He was very military. He was in the National Guard at that time and very serious about his education. And I was the hippie flower child of all time. So the two of us somehow met up because we were student teaching in the same district in Colorado Springs. And so we got married. And then we've been married exactly the same amount of time we've taught. So 31 years of marriage.
Wow.
So he retired last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys did that on purpose. You weren't going to retire at the same time. So did you draw straws to see who got to retire first? And was Doran holding the straws?
That's good. No, but it was lucky because last year would have just been awful. He tells all of us all the time, you know, thank goodness it's you and not me. Because it was just really challenging there were many nights he'd say, "So what are you going to do tomorrow?" You know, because every day was like a new adventure with COVID, right? And I said, "I seriously have no idea." And he'd say, "How can you live like this?" And I'm like, "You have to this year." Yeah. It really was like that this last year. You never knew if you were going to have kids at school or if they were going to be quarantined or up to the bitter end. It was just weird.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a class kind of get quarantined, which is sad to say, towards the end, and they helped me clean 31 years of band stuff. And we had a really fun time together. So that was actually kind of a blessing in a weird way.
So is it going to be difficult to get used to like being together all day, every day?
Well, we're exploring our opportunities. I don't think we're going to be home all that much. Yeah, we have other irons in the fire, and you know they may not have anything to do with music, but it's all good. So.
And you have wonderful dogs.
Yes, yeah.
That obviously keep you entertained at home.
They're very busy.
Yes. Yeah. I always look at the pictures. I just want to come roll around on the floor at your house.
Yeah. Doran vacuums every day.
Really?
Yeah, like multiple times, yes. He loves to vacuum.
I love that. I hate to vacuum.
I do too, so.
Well, so what kind of, I'm not a dog person. I like other people's dogs, but I don't really know a lot about dogs. What kind of dogs are they?
They're called American Eskimos. And it all started with a student who said, "Miss, do you want a dog?" And, you know, one of those, and okay.
At least it wasn't a rat.
I know.
Wait, isn't that how you got a rat?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Is it really? Really?
With two of them.
Are you serious? Not a Music Depot situation, was it?
No.
No, okay.
No. My son's teacher went and got 2 rats, both males, for a class pet.
Oh, no.
And they had 17 babies. Yeah, so we all All of us parents got rats, so that was wonderful.
But you got dogs instead.
That's true. So we ended up with this white dog, which kind of kicked off our American Eskimo habit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a very vocal breed. Lots of noise with them.
That's awesome.
But they're fun. They're very smart too. So
Well, now, and you have, so you've got your fur children, but
Yes.
you have human ones
yes,
also.
I do.
Right?
Yes, Anthony's 28 and soon to be 29. He's going to Rutgers.
Wow.
Rutgers.
Criminal justice.
Yes, getting his PhD, and he's just finishing up his second year, or he did finish up, and then he wants to be a professor, criminal justice. He played trombone though.
Yeah.
Never struck a gong, as far as I know.
Oh. Did he get his positions though?
Yes, he did.
Good.
He didn't have to have me
Excellent.
write them in. Yes, no. And Madeline, our daughter, is 26, and she's a housing director at University of North Dakota right now in Grand Forks. But she got her master's at Ohio State, and she's also a UNC grad, and she played French horn in middle school. So both of them played violin when they were tiny. I can read music. And they really love that too. And piano, of course, piano, I really think everybody should have some piano experience, as much as you can get. And I had a kid at Walmart the other day. He waited on me, and I hardly recognized him he's so tall. And I said, what are you up to these days? He goes, I play piano every day. He said, I remember you told me that's what I had to do.
Well, I play piano, not every day.
No, yeah,
I played yesterday.
Did you?
I did. It was horrible.
It's very relaxing, isn't it?
It is one of it's the best stress reliever. Headache cure.
Yeah.
And I always play with my headphones.
Yeah. The Azari Sanity Savers.
Yes.
Well, and I just moved into a bigger apartment, so I'll be able to get a keyboard set up again, because it's been a while since I've been able to actually play. And somehow we have 2 keyboards in the house, because my boyfriend also has a slightly older model of the same Casio that I do, because he'll do he'll hook it up to his computer to write music stuff. I'm like,
that's good.
there's not a lot of piano playing going on in our house for a house with that many pianos.
Yeah. Definitely need more piano.
Well, I need a bigger piano. It doesn't have enough keys.
Yeah, I get that. I know what you're talking about.
I don't know where I'm going to get one, though.
It's probably the biggest question.
Music Depot.
Right? The biggest question we probably get about them is, how many keys do we need?
All of them.
Well, it depends on what you're going to play.
We use those little 5.5 octave keyboards with our Union Colony Children's Music, and that's really, as long as the keys are standard size, they're the right size, and I think weighted, the touch resistant or whatever, weight resistant.
Yeah.
I think those are the most important parts of the whole process.
Yeah.
And, you can always add the extra octaves, but, if you start on, substandard setup, it's tough.
Yeah.
But here I am. I just bought how many keyboards with tiny keys.
Yes, a lot.
But they had to be, the right
They
size.
had to-
Those fit on music stands perfectly.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that.
It was the perfect setup. And I don't know if you knew this, every student in District 6 has a Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is the little charger connected to their Chromebook, and that's how we got power for the keyboards.
And that works.
And so if a kid's Chromebook was dead or whatever, we'd give them batteries for the day.
Yeah.
But so that way I didn't have to buy 72 times 4 AA batteries.
Right.
But it worked. I didn't know how it was going to.
Yeah.
It was like a mystery. But
That's
Well,
amazing.
and now they can, any of the kids who loved it a bunch can now, whatever keyboard they get next is going to be
that's what I told them. And I said, you can go to any. Oh, and I taught them Heart and Soul towards the end.
Of course.
And I said, you've got to know this song, because when you go meet somebody, this will be your test.
Yeah. If you were not a teacher, what would you have done with your life?
Well, it's really funny that you asked that. I always wanted to do something in art. And even though I never had any training, and I'm really not even that great of an artist or anything, but I like lettering, and I like, making signs, like that Music Depot sign that's hanging right over there. I mean, it's not perfect, but kids colored it. But anyway, I've always wanted to do stuff like that. So I thought, with my next phase, what can I do that has that? And I actually am working at an awards store in town.
Nice.
And I'm learning how to do the laser engraving and the printing and all sorts of stuff like that. So if I weren't a music teacher, which I'm kind of not, ish, that's what I'm doing. I'm exploring those things.
Excellent. So now we have a contact.
Yes. Award Alliance. I'm still going to be teaching music through my Union Colony Children's Music and stuff, and private lessons, and other little things that come along.
What happens if you have a kid who gets, whether it's because they didn't do the tryout or they ended up at a school where there wasn't really like a whole lot of choice? What happens when you get a student who is on an instrument that they don't like?
That has happened many, many times, and you can see it in their eyes, and you can feel it from them, and it's just this energy of, and they'll do it because they want to please you, or they want to be part of the class because they like their friends, and they want to do things with the band, but it's not for them. A lot of times, I provide an out for them, and I say, not an out, actually an opportunity, and I say, this would be a good time if you're interested in trying something new, maybe just to add to what you already know or whatever, and trying to give them an opportunity to learn something new.
Well, I'm glad that even though you're retired from the school district, you still get to teach and to help people play music, and I'm glad that we still get to utilize your skills. And also, we love having you around.
I love.
I don't play favorites with customers. Kathy is one of my customers.
Thank you. You're my favorite Music Depot employee. Right. No, I just kidding. And kudos to Mark Payne for setting up an amazing and a wonderful connection with the teachers in Greeley and always supporting us. And he kept the store alive during some hard times. And there were years of competition and years of weird times in the schools, and he was innovative. I mean, I don't think the guitar thing was part of his original vision, but he picked it up, and now it's thriving and really a wonderful part. And
I know that Mark loves you.
Oh.
And I know he misses you.
I know. Alaska, here we go, right?
Yes, you are retired now.
That's right. But, just looking at all your inventory and thinking about how wonderful of a service you guys do to this community. I mean, whenever kids say, I don't know what to do, I said, have you been to Music Depot yet? And they're like, where's that? Where's that? And then they always say, my mom took my sax to Home Depot. So I'm like, I hope not. No, Music Depot, not Home Depot. So that makes me laugh.
Well, we sincerely appreciate all of the teachers that we get to be with, and we just want to thank you so much for coming and visiting with us, and being such an awesome role model in the community.
Well, I appreciate that. It definitely, it's a village that we're all part of. So
here's to more parties.
Yes.
In the village.
All right, there you go.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you.